it done?
Yeah, we
think
finished
so.
it off. The three of us, we just finished it right off.
Oh my gosh.
Suddenly Amish recap. February 3rd, 2026, Season 1, Episode 4. Love Your Neighbor. Matt's return shakes the community and forces emotional reckonings. Suddenly Amish Season 1, Episode 4, titled Love Your Neighbor, delivers one of the most emotionally layered and quietly explosive episodes of the season so far. Airing February 3rd, 2026, the episode shifts the focus away from surface-level cultural adjustments and instead dives deep into identity, fear, belonging, faith, and unresolved emotional bonds. While the Amish lifestyle remains the backdrop, this hour is really about internal transformation. Who these participants are when the comforts, defenses, and familiar versions of themselves are stripped away. This episode unfolds like a slow burn, gradually layering personal crises, tentative breakthroughs, and one truly destabilizing return that leaves the entire community on edge. The core theme, identity versus surrender. At its heart, Love Your Neighbor asks a deceptively simple question. What does it really mean to let go? Not just of modern conveniences, but of self-image, emotional armor, pride, fear, and unresolved pasts. Each storyline in this episode reflects a different version of that struggle. Esmeralda faces the loss of her physical identity. Aaron confronts vulnerability without accommodation. Billy Joe risks emotional exposure in pursuit of belonging. Kendra is forced to confront feelings she thought were finally behind her. Matt returns to face fear, judgment, and unfinished business. James is quietly exposed as someone struggling with his own contradictions. Together, these threads create an episode that feels less like reality television spectacle and more like an intimate psychological study. Esmeralda's crisis, when self-image becomes a lifeline. Esmeralda's storyline dominates the first half of the episode, and for good reason. Her struggle is not about vanity in the shallow sense. It is about security, control, and self-recognition. From the moment she learns she must fully adopt Amish dress, including removing her fake eyelashes and long nails, Esmeralda spirals. Her reaction is intense, emotional, and deeply personal. These are not accessories to her. They are armor. She explains that she feels pretty with them. More importantly, she feels safe. The Amish lifestyle, by contrast, removes mirrors, photographs, and external validation altogether. There is no opportunity to check, correct, or reassure oneself visually. Beauty is not curated or documented. It simply exists or it doesn't. For Esmeralda, this is terrifying. The illusion of control. Her resistance reveals something crucial. Esmeralda is not afraid of Amish rules. She is afraid of being unseen, by herself most of all. Without eyelashes, nails, and the visual identity she has built, she fears losing her sense of worth. This moment underscores one of the episode's most subtle insights. Modern self-expression often doubles as emotional survival. The Amish rejection of outward adornment isn't about punishment. It's about trust. Trust that identity exists independent of appearance. But that trust doesn't come easily. Kendra's quiet strength. It is Kendra who ultimately reaches Esmeralda, not through authority or pressure, but through empathy. Kendra reminds her that joining the Amish world was always about stepping away from a previous life, not halfway, not selectively, but fully. More importantly, Kendra validates Esmeralda's fear without indulging it. She doesn't shame her. She doesn't rush her. She simply reframes the choice. This has to be yours. That distinction matters. Choosing to let go. When Esmeralda finally removes the eyelashes and nails herself, the moment is understated but powerful. No dramatic music. No applause. Just quiet resolve. By making the choice on her own terms, Esmeralda transforms what could have been forced compliance into genuine surrender. She puts on the Amish dress, styles her hair, covers it with a cap, and something unexpected happens. She's fine. More than fine, she adapts quickly. The anxiety evaporates. The grief fades. What once felt unbearable now feels neutral, even freeing. This is one of the episode's most important lessons. Fear often lives longer in anticipation than in reality. Matt's return. Unfinished business walks back in. Just as Esmeralda finds her footing, the episode introduces its most destabilizing twist. Matt returns to the community. His reappearance doesn't just surprise the group, it fractures emotional equilibrium that was only just beginning to stabilize. Why Matt left? Matt originally joined the Amish experience to reconnect with his faith. His intentions were sincere, but his journey was cut short by an encounter that left him shaken and ashamed. James, still technically shunned himself, judged Matt harshly for being divorced. In one of the show's most unsettling earlier moments, James confronted Matt with visible anger, at one point wielding an axe. Matt feared him. That fear chased him out of the community. Why Matt came back? Matt explains that he couldn't accept that his spiritual journey ended because of someone else's bias. He doesn't want fear or judgment to be the defining force in his faith. So he returns, knowing full well the discomfort it will cause. This is not a triumphant comeback. It's a deliberate confrontation. The impact on Kendra. For Kendra, Matt's return is seismic. She had only just stopped crying over him. Their bond, while never fully defined, was deeply emotional. Seeing him again reopens wounds she thought had finally begun to heal. Her reaction is raw and unfiltered. She runs to him, trips, falls, crawls the rest of the way just to hug him. This is not casual affection. It's visceral longing. In that moment, it becomes clear that Kendra's emotional journey has been shaped, perhaps defined, by Matt's absence. And now, that absence is gone. James. Hypocrisy in plain sight. James's reaction to Matt's return is quiet but telling. He is visibly unhappy. The episode never states outright whether James's hostility stems from jealousy, rigid dogma, or unresolved inner conflict, but it strongly suggests all three. James judged Matt for being divorced while being shunned himself. He enforced moral authority without institutional backing. Now, the bishop has welcomed Matt back. That undermines James's self-appointed role as gatekeeper. More importantly, it forces James to confront a painful truth. Authority without compassion is hollow. At some point, James will have to answer whether his actions were rooted in faith or fear. Billy Joe's leap, choosing belonging over avoidance. While emotional fireworks erupt elsewhere, Billy Joe's storyline offers a quieter, deeply human counterpoint. She realizes something fundamental. If she truly wants to be Amish, she cannot remain emotionally isolated. She wants an Amish husband. Fear of men. Billy Joe openly admits she is intimidated by men. Dating has never come easily to her. She once joked that she would start dating in her 70s, a way to deflect from fear with humor. But humor doesn't build a future. Recognizing that forces Billy Joe into unfamiliar territory. Vulnerability. Aaron's attempt at matchmaking. Aaron, struggling without his hearing aids, tries to help. His partial hearing creates misunderstandings, fragmented conversations, and awkward assumptions. He hears enough to know Billy Joe wants to date, but not enough to manage the details. Still, his effort matters. He introduces the idea of Jacob. Alan takes the lead. Alan, picking up where Aaron can't, takes the initiative and arranges a courting meeting between Billy Joe and Jacob. This moment highlights something subtle but meaningful. Community support doesn't require perfection, just intention. Billy Joe and Jacob. Awkward, honest, unexpected. Their courtship begins with a walk through a cornfield, a setting as traditional as it gets. And it is painfully awkward. Jacob is painfully shy. His vocabulary seems limited to okay. Billy Joe carries the conversation alone, filling silence with nervous chatter. Then she mentions tattoos. Everything changes. Breaking the ice. Jacob jokes that he has tattoos too, hidden ones. The humor loosens him up. He starts talking. The dynamic shifts. Then comes the shock. Jacob reveals that he has his nipples pierced and shows them. It's unexpected, jarring, and oddly disarming. Instead of ending the date, it creates connection. Why? Because it's honest. In a world defined by restraint and modesty, Jacob's admission is not rebellion. It's vulnerability. And vulnerability, it turns out, is attractive. Their courtship ends on a positive note, suggesting that genuine connection often begins where assumptions end. Aaron's silent struggle, disability, without accommodation. Aaron's storyline operates quietly in the background but carries significant weight. Without his hearing aids, Aaron navigates conversations half-blind. He misses context, misinterprets tone, fills gaps with guesses. This is not played for comedy. It's played for truth. Aaron's experience underscores how easily people overlook accessibility when accommodation disappears. His struggle isn't dramatic, but it's constant. And yet, he still tries to help others. That effort matters. Judah and the buggy, learning humility. Judah's attempt to drive a buggy offers brief levity, but also a lesson. Unlike cars, horses respond to emotion. Tension in the reins translates to fear. Control backfires. It's a perfect metaphor for the Amish lifestyle itself. The harder one tries to dominate it, the less cooperative it becomes. The bishop's decision. Authority with compassion. Perhaps the most significant institutional moment of the episode comes quietly. The bishop allows Matt to rejoin the community. This decision carries weight. It validates Matt. It rebukes James, gently but firmly. It reinforces the Amish emphasis on grace over judgment. Faith, the episode reminds us, is not about perfection. It is about return. Final reflection. Love your neighbor means facing yourself. Love your neighbor is not about romance alone. It's about the courage to sit with discomfort, the humility to admit fear, and the willingness to let others see you without defenses. Every major storyline reflects this truth. Esmeralda learns she is more than her reflection. Billy Joe risks rejection for belonging. Aaron shows up despite limitation. Matt confronts fear instead of fleeing. Kendra discovers that healing is not linear. James is forced to reckon with his own rigidity. This episode doesn't resolve everything. It isn't meant to. It simply opens the door and asks who is brave enough to walk through it. Tonight on TLC, Suddenly Amish airs with an all-new Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026, Season 7, Episode 4 called Love Your Neighbor, and we have your weekly Suddenly Amish recap below. In tonight's Suddenly Amish episode, as per the TLC synopsis, Esmeralda confronts her fears about identity amidst her Amish transformation. Aaron struggles without his hearing aids, and Alan plays matchmaker for Billy Joe. Then a shocking return leaves everyone on edge. Tonight's episode is going to be exciting, you won't want to miss it, so be sure to tune in for our live coverage of the show tonight at 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. While you wait for our Suddenly Amish recap, hit the comments and let us know how excited you are about the return of the Amish family. Tonight's Suddenly Amish episode begins now. Refresh page often to get the most current updates. In tonight's Suddenly Amish episode, Esmeralda was spiraling out because she couldn't wear the dress. She wanted to wear the dress, just not enough to let go of the fake eyelashes and long nails. She feels pretty with them on. She doesn't want to give up that sense of security, but the Amish don't even have mirrors. They don't take photos. They don't need a security blanket, and wasn't the point of joining the show was to enjoy life from their perspective. Esmeralda couldn't get past it until she spoke with Kendra. Kendra understood where she was coming from. Kendra also reminded Esmeralda that they were leaving a certain lifestyle behind. Esmeralda took off the eyelashes as well as the nails. She did it herself so that it was her choice, and then she wore the Amish dress. She did her hair up. She put it under a cap. She didn't even miss the things she was crying about a mere few days ago. She was fine. She was adapting. Much like Kendra did after Matt left. There was just one problem with that. Matt came back to the community. He felt bad about how everything ended. Matt joined the show because he interested in reconnecting with his faith. Only James made him feel ashamed for being divorced. James was still technically shunned, and still he judged someone harshly. He ran off Matt with an axe in his hand. Matt feared him in that moment. He now wants to go back to face that fear. He didn't want his journey in the Amish to have ended because of someone's bias. Matt wanted to return, and that played a part in Kendra's tailspin. Kendra only recently stopped crying about him. Speaking about love lives, Billy Joe realized she needed to find an Amish suitor. She wasn't like the others. She wanted to be Amish. She knew the best to acclimate herself was to find an Amish husband. It posed a problem for her because Billy Joe openly admits she's intimidated by men. She doesn't know how to approach them, and she jokingly used to say that she's date when she was 70. She now has to go back on that. Aaron tried to help her out. He wasn't a very good matchmaker because he was at a loss without his hearing aids. Aaron was getting half the conversation. He tried to piece together the parts he misses, but sits hard on him. He knew Billy Joe was interested in Amish dating, and so he tried to set her up with Jacob. Jacob seemed like an alright guy. The parts that Aaron heard mentioned, he was single.
He was a little shy about dating.
Like Billy Joe. Aaron couldn't hear the other parts because he was painting the house, so he was getting bits of the conversation, rather than the full thing. And what he contributed to the conversation got Alan thinking. Alan took the additional step of setting the two up. Billy Joe and Jacob went courting. They took a walk around the cornfield. It was a bit difficult to pry information out of Jacob. He was shyer than she was. He mostly stuck to the word okay. It took Billy Joe mentioning a tattoo to get him to open up. He was joking with her about having his own tattoos. He claimed they were all hidden ones. It got them finally talking.
She was talking at him before then.
He ended up revealing that he has his nipples pierced. He showed them to her. It put a positive spin on the date. Their courting was going well. The others were adjusting nicely to the Amish lifestyle. Judah took the buggy out for a spin. It was a lot more difficult than a car because unfortunately horses react to people holding their reins. They get skittish if their human does so as well. It was as they were enjoying a nice lunch that Matt returned. Kendra was so happy to see him. She ran to him and fell and still crawled to hug his legs. This wasn't a small crush. It was a massive one. James wasn't too happy to see Matt. Could it because he had a moment with Kendra before? Is it jealous that was making him push Matt out, or what he said in his Amish ways? James eventually has to answer those questions. Until then, he has to accept that the bishop was willing to allow Matt to rejoin them. The end. Suddenly Amish recap. February 3rd, 2026 Season 1, Episode 4. Love your neighbor. Matt's return shakes the community and forces emotional reckonings. TLC's Suddenly Amish continues to deepen its emotional and psychological complexity in Season 1, Episode 4. Love Your Neighbor, which aired Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. What initially presents itself as another episode about cultural adjustment quickly transforms into a layered exploration of identity, vulnerability, faith, belonging, and unresolved emotional ties. Rather than focusing on the external challenges of Amish life, such as transportation, clothing, or daily labor, this episode turns inward. The real struggles unfold within the participants themselves as they confront who they are without modern comforts, personal defenses, and emotional distance. Each storyline reflects a different version of surrender, whether it involves physical appearance, emotional risk, spiritual conviction, or fear of rejection. At the center of the episode is a shocking return that destabilizes the fragile balance the community has only just begun to establish. Matt's reappearance reopens emotional wounds, exposes unresolved tensions, and forces several participants, particularly Kendra and James, to confront truths they may not be ready to face. Love Your Neighbor unfolds slowly and deliberately, layering personal crises with tentative breakthroughs. The episode ultimately becomes one of the most introspective and consequential chapters of the season so far. Identity versus surrender, the episode's central question. At its core, Love Your Neighbor asks a deceptively simple yet profoundly challenging question. What does it truly mean to let go? This question extends far beyond giving up technology or adapting to Amish customs. Instead, it asks participants to surrender self-image, emotional armor, pride, fear, and unresolved personal histories. The Amish lifestyle acts as a catalyst, stripping away distractions and forcing participants to face aspects of themselves they may have long avoided. Each primary storyline reflects a different facet of this struggle. Esmeralda confronts the loss of her physical identity and the security it provides. Aaron navigates vulnerability, without the accommodations he relies on. Billy Joe risks emotional exposure in her pursuit of belonging. Kendra faces feelings she believed she had finally overcome. Matt returns to confront fear, judgment, and unfinished spiritual business. James is quietly revealed as someone wrestling with internal contradictions. Together, these narratives elevate the episode beyond typical reality television. Love Your Neighbor plays less like a spectacle and more like an intimate psychological study, inviting viewers to reflect on how identity is constructed and what remains when those constructions are dismantled. Esmeralda's crisis, when self-image becomes emotional survival. Esmeralda's storyline anchors the first half of the episode and serves as its emotional foundation. Her struggle is not about vanity in the shallow sense. It is about security, control, and self-recognition. From the moment Esmeralda learns that she must fully adopt Amish dress, including removing her fake eyelashes and long acrylic nails, she begins to unravel. Her distress is immediate and intense. These items are not mere fashion choices to her. They function as emotional armor. Esmeralda explains that she feels pretty with them. More importantly, she feels safe. The Amish lifestyle, by contrast, removes nearly every form of external validation. There are no mirrors, no photographs, and no emphasis on physical appearance. Beauty is not curated, documented, or displayed. It exists quietly, without reinforcement. For Esmeralda, this absence is terrifying. Without the visual markers she relies on, she fears losing her sense of worth. The idea of being unseen, even by herself, feels unbearable. The illusion of control. Esmeralda's resistance reveals a deeper truth. She is not afraid of Amish rules. She is afraid of losing control over how she perceives herself. Her eyelashes and nails represent something larger than appearance. They are symbols of agency, choice, and self-definition. Without them, she fears becoming unrecognizable, not only to others, but to herself. This moment underscores one of the episode's most nuanced insights. Modern self-expression often doubles as emotional survival. What appears superficial on the surface can function as a deeply ingrained coping mechanism. The Amish rejection of outward adornment is not framed as punishment. Instead, it emphasizes trust that identity exists independently of appearance. But that trust does not come easily, especially for someone whose self-image has long been reinforced through visual affirmation. Kendra's quiet strength, empathy without pressure. It is Kendra who ultimately helps Esmeralda through this crisis, not through authority, rules, or judgment, but through empathy. Kendra listens without dismissing Esmeralda's fear. She acknowledges how difficult it is to let go of something that provides comfort and security. Rather than minimizing Esmeralda's feelings, Kendra validates them. At the same time, she gently reframes the situation. Kendra reminds Esmeralda that joining the Amish world was never meant to be a partial transformation. It requires leaving behind a previous lifestyle fully, not selectively. This is not about deprivation, it is about commitment. Most importantly, Kendra emphasizes choice. This has to be yours. That distinction proves critical. Esmeralda is not being forced to comply. She is being invited to decide. Choosing to let go, a quiet turning point. When Esmeralda finally removes her eyelashes and nails herself, the moment is striking in its restraint. There is no dramatic music, no applause, no heightened production. The power of the scene lies in its simplicity. By making the choice on her own terms, Esmeralda transforms what could have been forced compliance into genuine surrender. She puts on the Amish dress. She styles her hair and covers it with a cap. And then something unexpected happens. She is fine. The panic dissipates. The grief fades. The loss that once felt unbearable becomes manageable, almost irrelevant. What terrified her only days earlier no longer holds the same power. Esmeralda adapts with surprising ease, revealing one of the episode's most important lessons. Fear often lives longer in anticipation than in reality. Matt's return, unfinished business, re-enters the community. Just as Esmeralda finds her footing, the episode introduces its most destabilizing development, Matt returns to the community. His reappearance does not simply surprise the group. It disrupts emotional equilibrium that had only just begun to stabilize. Matt's return forces unresolved tensions into the open and reignites emotional dynamics that many believed were settled. Why Matt left? Matt originally joined the Amish experience with sincere intentions. He hoped to reconnect with his faith and explore a life rooted in simplicity and spiritual discipline. However, his journey was derailed by a deeply unsettling encounter with James. Despite being technically shunned himself, James judged Matt harshly for being divorced. In one of the most disturbing moments earlier in the season, James confronted Matt with visible anger, at one point wielding an axe. Matt feared him. That fear followed Matt out of the community and ultimately ended his initial Amish journey. Why Matt came back, facing fear instead of fleeing. Matt explains that he could not accept that his spiritual journey ended because of someone else's bias. He did not want fear or judgment to define his relationship with faith. Returning to the community is not a triumphant comeback. It is a deliberate confrontation. Matt knows his presence will cause discomfort. He understands the emotional fallout his return may trigger, but he believes that leaving unresolved fear behind would be a greater loss than facing it. His decision reframes faith not as avoidance, but as courage. Kendra's emotional earthquake. For Kendra, Matt's return is seismic. She had only recently begun to recover from his departure. The grief was still fresh, but manageable. Seeing him again instantly reopens wounds she believed were finally healing. Her reaction is raw and unfiltered. She runs toward him, stumbles, falls, and crawls the rest of the way just to reach him. This moment leaves no ambiguity about the depth of her feelings. This is not a casual attachment or fleeting attraction. It is profound emotional investment. In that instant, it becomes clear that Kendra's emotional journey within the Amish experience has been shaped, perhaps defined, by Matt's absence. And now, that absence is gone. James, hypocrisy and inner conflict exposed. James's response to Matt's return is quiet but revealing. He is visibly unhappy. The episode does not explicitly state whether James's hostility stems from jealousy, rigid religious dogma, or unresolved personal insecurity. However, it strongly suggests that all three factors may be at play. James judged Matt for being divorced while remaining shunned himself. He enforced moral authority without institutional backing. Now, the bishop has welcomed Matt back into the community. That decision undermines James's self-appointed role as gatekeeper. More importantly, it forces James to confront a difficult truth. Authority without compassion is hollow. At some point, James will have to answer whether his actions were motivated by faith or fear. Billy Joe's leap toward belonging. While emotional turmoil unfolds elsewhere, Billy Joe's storyline offers a quieter but equally meaningful counterpoint. Billy Joe comes to a realization that reshapes her Amish journey. If she truly wants to belong, she cannot remain emotionally isolated. She wants an Amish husband. This is not about romance for romance's sake. It is about integration, commitment, and choosing a future rooted in the community she hopes to embrace. Fear of men. Billy Joe openly admits that she is intimidated by men. Dating has never come easily to her. In the past, she deflected her fear with humor, joking that she would start dating in her 70s. But humor does not build a future. Acknowledging this fear forces Billy Joe into unfamiliar territory. Vulnerability. Aaron's silent struggle. Vulnerability without accommodation. Aaron's storyline unfolds quietly throughout Love Your Neighbor, yet it carries profound emotional and thematic weight. Unlike the more visibly dramatic arcs of Esmeralda or Matt, Aaron's struggle is subtle, persistent, and deeply human. Without his hearing aids, Aaron navigates daily life in the Amish community at a significant disadvantage. Conversations become fragmented. Instructions are partially missed. Context slips through the cracks. Aaron is forced to piece together meaning from incomplete information, relying on intuition and assumption rather than clarity. What makes Aaron's experience especially striking is that it is not framed as a dramatic obstacle or a source of sympathy-driven storytelling. Instead, It is presented as a constant undercurrent, an invisible challenge that affects every interaction. Aaron hears enough to function, but not enough to feel secure, living in the gaps. Aaron frequently catches only portions of conversations. He understands intent, but misses nuance. This leads to awkward pauses, misinterpretations, and moments where he contributes comments that feel slightly off from the conversation's original direction. Yet Aaron does not withdraw. He continues to engage. He continues to help. He continues to show up for others, even while navigating his own limitations. In a setting where modern accommodations are absent, Aaron's experience highlights a larger reality. Accessibility is often invisible until it is gone. The episode does not sensationalize this struggle. It simply allows it to exist, uncomfortably and honestly. That restraint makes Aaron's storyline all the more powerful. Matchmaking misfires. Aaron's good intentions. Aaron's involvement in Billy Joe's romantic journey begins with good intentions, though it quickly reveals the limits of what he can manage without full auditory clarity. He understands that Billy Joe wants to explore Amish dating. He hears enough to grasp the goal, but not enough to coordinate the details effectively. Conversations occur while he is multitasking, painting the house, working alongside others, and critical pieces of information slip past him. Still, Aaron tries. He suggests Jacob as a potential match, based on what he believes he has heard. Jacob is single, reserved, and open to courting. On paper, the pairing seems logical, but Aaron is only working with half the picture. What Aaron contributes, however imperfectly, sets off a chain reaction that leads to one of the episode's most unexpectedly revealing moments. Alan steps in, community support in action. Recognizing that Aaron's suggestion has merit, even if the execution is incomplete, Alan takes the initiative to move things forward. Alan's decision to arrange a formal courting meeting between Billy Joe and Jacob underscores a recurring theme in Love Your Neighbor. Community support does not require perfection. It requires willingness. Alan does not overanalyze the match. He does not guarantee success. He simply creates an opportunity. This small act reflects a core Amish value: collective responsibility. Individual growth is not a solitary pursuit. It is supported, facilitated, and nurtured by the community. Billy Joe and Jacob. Awkward beginnings in a cornfield. Billy Joe and Jacob's courtship begins in a setting that could not be more traditional: a walk through a cornfield. The simplicity of the scene contrasts sharply with the emotional complexity unfolding beneath the surface. From the outset, the interaction is painfully awkward. Jacob is extremely shy. His responses are brief, often limited to a single word: okay. Billy Joe, clearly nervous herself, fills the silence with conversation, talking at him rather than with him. The imbalance is uncomfortable to watch, but also deeply authentic. Two people, both uncertain and guarded, are attempting to connect without scripts, distractions, or digital buffers, breaking the ice. The turning point comes unexpectedly. Billy Joe mentions tattoos. What follows shifts the entire dynamic. Jacob jokes that he has tattoos too, hidden ones. The humor relaxes him. He begins to open up. His body language changes. His responses lengthen. The conversation finally becomes reciprocal. For the first time, the silence feels intentional rather than awkward. A surprising revelation, vulnerability over shock. Then comes the moment no one anticipates. Jacob reveals that he has his nipples pierced and shows them to Billy Joe. The disclosure is startling, particularly within the context of Amish courtship and cultural restraint. Yet the scene does not descend into shock value or ridicule. Instead, it lands as something unexpectedly human. Jacob's admission is not framed as rebellion or defiance. It is framed as honesty. By revealing something personal, something that contradicts assumptions, Jacob exposes his vulnerability. And vulnerability, in this moment, becomes connection. Billy Joe does not recoil. She does not judge. She laughs. She listens. The power of the moment lies in its sincerity. In a world governed by modesty and restraint, Jacob's openness does not undermine Amish values. It humanizes them. Their courtship ends on a surprisingly positive note, suggesting that genuine connection often begins where expectations dissolve. Billy Joe's growth, from avoidance to engagement. For Billy Joe, the date represents more than a potential romantic connection. It marks a personal breakthrough. By agreeing to court Jacob, Billy Joe confronts her fear of men rather than deflecting it with humor or avoidance. She allows herself to be seen, awkwardness and all. Regardless of where the relationship leads, the act itself signifies growth. Billy Joe is no longer standing on the edge of belonging. She is stepping into it. Judah and the buggy, a lesson in humility. While emotional developments dominate the episode, Judah's attempt to drive a buggy offers a brief but meaningful moment of levity and insight. Used to driving cars, Judah initially approaches the buggy with confidence. That confidence quickly proves misplaced. Unlike vehicles, horses are sensitive to human emotion. They respond not just to physical cues, but to tension, anxiety, and control. When Judah grips the reins too tightly, the horse becomes skittish. The harder Judah tries to assert control, the less cooperative the situation becomes. This moment serves as a quiet metaphor for the Amish lifestyle itself. Success within the community does not come from domination or force. It comes from patience, calm, and trust. Judah's experience reinforces a recurring theme of the episode. Surrender is not weakness, it is adaptation. Matt's return revisited. The community reacts. As the group settles into a shared meal, a sense of calm briefly takes hold. Then Matt arrives. The timing is deliberate. The return occurs not during conflict or chaos, but during communal peace, heightening its impact. Kendra's reaction is immediate and overwhelming. She runs toward Matt, trips, falls, and crawls the remaining distance to him. The gesture is raw, instinctive, and emotionally unfiltered. It becomes instantly clear that Kendra's feelings for Matt were never resolved, only suppressed. Her joy at seeing him eclipses embarrassment, pride, or composure. This is not a small crush. It is profound emotional attachment. James's discomfort. Unanswered questions. James, by contrast, reacts with visible displeasure. The episode does not provide a definitive explanation for his reaction, but it raises important questions. Is James jealous of Matt's connection with Kendra? Is he threatened by Matt's return undermining his moral authority? Or is he struggling with rigid beliefs that leave little room for grace? James once drove Matt away through judgment and intimidation. Now, the bishop's decision to welcome Matt back strips James of the authority he attempted to wield. James is forced into an uncomfortable position, one where he must confront whether his actions aligned with Amish values of humility and forgiveness. The bishop's decision, grace over judgment. Perhaps the most consequential moment of the episode comes quietly, without spectacle. The bishop allows Matt to rejoin the community. This decision carries significant weight. It validates Matt's spiritual journey. It rebukes James, gently but firmly. It reinforces the Amish emphasis on grace, humility, and reconciliation. The bishop's authority contrasts sharply with James's earlier behavior. Where James acted from rigidity and judgment, the bishop acts from compassion and discernment. The message is clear. Faith is not about exclusion. It is about return. Final reflection. Love your neighbor begins within. Love your neighbor is not merely about romantic connection or cultural adjustment. It is about internal reckoning. Each participant is forced to confront a version of themselves they may not have anticipated. Esmeralda learns she is more than her reflection. Billy Joe chooses courage over avoidance. Aaron shows up despite limitation. Matt confronts fear instead of fleeing. Kendra discovers that healing is not linear. James faces the consequences of judgment without compassion. The episode does not offer resolution. It does not tie emotional arcs into neat conclusions. Instead, it opens doors. Love your neighbor asks who is willing to walk through them and who is willing to face themselves on the other side. Faith under pressure. When belief is tested by human emotion. One of the most compelling undercurrents of Love Your Neighbor is the way faith itself is placed under pressure, not by external temptation, but by human emotion. This episode illustrates that belief systems are not challenged only by modern conveniences or cultural differences. They are tested most profoundly when they collide with fear, love, jealousy, insecurity, and unresolved pain. For nearly every participant, faith becomes less about doctrine and more about practice. Matt's return forces the community to confront what forgiveness actually looks like. Kendra's emotional response raises questions about attachment and spiritual balance. James's rigidity exposes the danger of belief without compassion. In this way, Episode 4 shifts Suddenly Amish from cultural exploration into moral examination. Matt's journey reframed, courage over compliance. Matt's return is not merely a personal decision. It reframes the meaning of faith within the episode. Previously, Matt's departure could have been interpreted as failure or weakness. In Love Your Neighbor, that narrative is reversed. His return becomes an act of courage rather than retreat. Matt does not deny that he was afraid. He acknowledges it openly. What changes is his refusal to allow that fear to dictate the conclusion of his spiritual journey. This distinction is crucial. Faith, as depicted here, is not blind endurance. It is the willingness to return to a place of discomfort in pursuit of truth and reconciliation. Matt's presence challenges the community to decide whether faith is about moral purity or spiritual growth. Kendra's emotional complexity. Healing is not linear. Kendra's response to Matt's return stands as one of the most emotionally honest moments of the episode. Her reaction, running, falling, crawling, breaks from the composed restraint expected within the Amish environment. It is instinctive, vulnerable, and deeply human. What makes this moment significant is not just the intensity of her feelings, but what it reveals about emotional healing. Kendra had not moved on. She had stabilized. She had learned to function without Matt's presence. Those are not the same thing. Matt's return exposes the fragile scaffolding of emotional recovery. Healing, the episode suggests, is not linear. It does not progress in a straight line toward closure. It bends, pauses, regresses, and resurfaces. Kendra is not weak for feeling deeply again. She is honest. And honesty, in this episode, is repeatedly framed as a virtue, even when it is uncomfortable. James as a cautionary figure, when conviction becomes control. James's role in Love Your Neighbor evolves from antagonist to cautionary figure. His earlier actions, judging Matt's divorce, confronting him aggressively, and effectively driving him away, were framed as moral enforcement. In this episode, they are reframed as something far more troubling. James's behavior reflects what happens when conviction hardens into control. Despite being shunned himself, James positioned himself as an authority on spiritual worthiness. His reaction to Matt's return suggests not confidence in faith, but insecurity threatened by compassion. The bishop's decision to welcome Matt back quietly exposes James's lack of institutional authority. More importantly, it exposes a deeper issue. Belief without humility risks becoming self-serving. James is not portrayed as irredeemable. Instead, he is portrayed as someone standing at a crossroads, forced to choose between rigid self-righteousness and genuine spiritual growth. Esmeralda revisited. Identity after surrender. Though Esmeralda's central conflict resolves earlier in the episode, its implications continue to ripple outward. Her rapid adaptation after removing her eyelashes and nails challenges assumptions about identity loss. Rather than diminishing her sense of self, surrendering her visual armor appears to stabilize it. Esmeralda's experience suggests that identity does not disappear when external markers are removed, it consolidates. Without mirrors or visual reinforcement, Esmeralda begins to experience herself internally rather than performatively. Her emotional calm stands in stark contrast to the panic that preceded it. This transformation reinforces one of the episode's core messages. What we fear losing often holds less power than we imagine. Aaron's quiet resilience. Strength without recognition. Aaron's storyline continues to unfold without fanfare, and that restraint makes it all the more impactful. His hearing loss remains a constant barrier, yet he never centers himself as a victim. He does not withdraw or disengage. Instead, He continues to participate fully in community life, even when it requires extra effort and patience. Aaron's quiet resilience contrasts sharply with louder emotional arcs in the episode. It reminds viewers that struggle does not always announce itself. Sometimes it simply persists. In a community where self-sufficiency is prized, Aaron's experience highlights an important truth. Resilience is not the absence of need. It is the willingness to keep going despite it. Billy Joe's courtship reconsidered. Authenticity over idealization. Looking back at Billy Joe's date with Jacob, its significance extends beyond novelty or surprise. The awkwardness, silences, and unexpected revelations dismantle the romantic ideal often projected onto Amish courtship. Rather than presenting a sanitized or idealized version of connection, the episode offers something far more realistic. Connection is uncomfortable. Vulnerability is messy. Honesty is rarely elegant. Jacob's admission about his piercings, while shocking on the surface, ultimately serves as a moment of authenticity. It disrupts assumptions and invites genuine engagement. For Billy Joe, this encounter marks a shift away from fear-driven avoidance and toward emotionally grounded participation. She is no longer waiting for the right time to live fully. She is living now. Community dynamics, support without spectacle. One of the quieter strengths of Love Your Neighbor lies in how the community responds to individual struggles. Alan's decision to facilitate Billy Joe's courtship. The bishop's calm authority in welcoming Matt back. Kendra's empathetic guidance of Esmeralda. These actions are not dramatic. They are not self-congratulatory. They are simply supportive. The episode portrays community not as a controlling force, but as a stabilizing one, capable of holding contradiction, discomfort, and growth simultaneously. The Amish lifestyle as a mirror, not a rulebook. By episode 4, it becomes clear that the Amish lifestyle in Suddenly Amish functions less as a set of rules and more as a mirror. Stripped of distractions, participants are forced to confront aspects of themselves they may have long avoided. Esmeralda confronts insecurity. Kendra confronts unresolved attachment. Matt confronts fear. James confronts rigidity. Billy Joe confronts avoidance. Aaron confronts limitation without accommodation. The lifestyle does not create these issues. It reveals them. Narrative structure. Why this episode feels different. Structurally, Love Your Neighbor stands apart from earlier episodes in the season. There is no single dominant conflict. No manufactured cliffhanger. No artificially heightened drama. Instead, the episode builds tension through emotional accumulation. Each storyline adds weight, culminating in Matt's return and the bishop's decision. The pacing allows moments to breathe. Silence is permitted. Awkwardness is not edited away. This restraint gives the episode a reflective tone that lingers long after it ends. Looking ahead, emotional consequences still unfolding. By the episode's conclusion, very little is resolved, and that is precisely the point. Matt's return raises new questions rather than answering old ones. Kendra's emotional stability is once again uncertain. James's role within the community remains unresolved. Billy Joe's future with Jacob is open-ended. Aaron's accessibility challenges persist. Love Your Neighbor does not offer closure. It offers consequence. Conclusion. The cost and reward of letting go. Season 1, Episode 4 of Suddenly Amish succeeds because it refuses to simplify transformation. Letting go is not portrayed as easy. Surrender is not portrayed as painless. Faith is not portrayed as tidy. Instead, the episode presents growth as uncomfortable, nonlinear, and deeply personal. Love Your Neighbor ultimately suggests that the greatest challenge of Amish life is not giving up modern conveniences, but facing oneself without them. And in that confrontation, every participant is changed. Symbolism and subtext. What Love Your Neighbor is really saying. By its 4th episode, Suddenly Amish has begun using symbolism more deliberately, and Love Your Neighbor is one of the clearest examples of that shift. Nearly every major moment in the episode operates on 2 levels: what happens on screen and what it represents emotionally and spiritually. The title itself is not merely a biblical reference or a moral instruction. It functions as a thematic challenge, one that tests each participant's capacity for empathy, humility, and self-awareness. Loving one's neighbor, the episode suggests, is not about politeness or surface-level kindness. It requires confronting fear, surrendering control, and allowing others to exist without judgment. Esmeralda's transformation as symbolic rebirth. Esmeralda's removal of her eyelashes and nails operates symbolically as a form of rebirth. In Amish tradition, simplicity is not just aesthetic, it reflects submission to community over self. For Esmeralda, this transition is especially jarring because her identity has long been reinforced through visual self-expression. Her emotional breakdown before adopting Amish dress mirrors the fear many experience before a major personal transformation, the fear that something essential will be lost. Instead, what follows is clarity. Once the physical markers are gone, Esmeralda does not disappear. She stabilizes. Her calm after surrender suggests that identity, when no longer tied to performance, can become more grounded rather than less. The episode uses her journey to challenge the assumption that external expression is the foundation of self-worth. In Esmeralda's case, letting go becomes an act of self-preservation rather than self-erasure. The acts revisited: fear, power, and memory. Although the act itself appears only in flashback and discussion, its symbolic weight lingers heavily over Matt's return. The earlier confrontation between James and Matt was not simply aggressive, it was deeply destabilizing. An axe, traditionally associated with labor and provision in Amish culture, becomes a symbol of intimidation when wielded in anger. For Matt, the memory of that moment defines his initial departure. Fear is not abstract for him, it is embodied. By returning, Matt is not just re-entering the community. He is reclaiming power over a memory that once controlled him. This recontextualization transforms the axe from a symbol of threat into one of unresolved accountability, placing the burden not on Matt, but on James. Kendra and emotional exposure. When restraint breaks. Kendra's reaction to Matt's return stands out precisely because it breaks Amish norms of emotional restraint. Her collapse, running, falling, crawling, removes all barriers between feeling and action. In a community that values composure and modesty, this moment feels almost disruptive. Yet the episode does not frame it as inappropriate. Instead, it frames it as truthful. Kendra's emotional exposure reveals the cost of suppression. Her feelings did not vanish while Matt was gone. They were contained. His return releases them all at once. This moment reinforces one of the episode's core insights. Emotional discipline without emotional processing can delay healing, but it cannot replace it. James and the illusion of moral authority. James's behavior throughout the episode exposes the difference between moral conviction and moral authority. Despite being shunned, James continues to position himself as a spiritual enforcer. His earlier judgment of Matt's divorce reflects an interpretation of faith rooted in exclusion rather than reconciliation. The bishop's quiet decision to welcome Matt back dismantles James's authority without confrontation. This contrast is intentional. Where James operates from rigidity, the bishop operates from discernment. Where James reacts emotionally, the bishop responds institutionally. Where James judges, the bishop listens. The episode does not vilify James outright. Instead, it frames him as a warning, illustrating how belief, when unexamined, can become a tool for control rather than compassion. Billy Joe's courtship as cultural disruption. Billy Joe's date with Jacob subtly disrupts idealized notions of Amish courtship. The awkwardness, the silence, and the unexpected revelation about Jacob's piercings dismantle the assumption that Amish dating is uniformly modest, predictable, or emotionally restrained. Rather than undermining Amish values, this scene humanizes them. Jacob's honesty does not reject the community's norms. It reveals that individuals within those norms still carry complexity, contradiction, and past experiences. For Billy Joe, the date becomes less about romance and more about self-trust. She allows the moment to unfold without judgment or retreat, signaling her readiness to engage with life as it is. not as she fears it might be. Erin's experience as commentary on invisible labor. Erin's hearing loss storyline operates as a commentary on invisible labor, the constant effort required to function in a world not designed for accessibility. The Amish environment removes modern accommodations without offering alternatives. Erin compensates by working harder emotionally and cognitively, filling in gaps others never notice. What makes Erin's story especially resonant is its lack of resolution. There is no fix, no breakthrough, no adaptation montage. His challenge simply continues. In doing so, the episode resists the temptation to turn disability into inspiration or spectacle. Instead, it presents persistence as reality, community as character, collective responsibility in action. By episode 4, the Amish community itself begins to function as a character rather than a setting. Alan's role in facilitating Billy Joe's courtship, Kendra's support of Esmeralda, the bishop's intervention with Matt. These actions demonstrate a collective ethic that values support over spectacle. Importantly, the community does not rush to resolve conflict. It allows discomfort to exist. It creates space for individuals to struggle publicly without immediate correction. This patience reinforces the idea that transformation cannot be forced. It must be lived. Narrative stakes moving forward. Love Your Neighbor significantly raises the emotional stakes for the remainder of the season. Matt's return introduces unresolved tension between him and James that cannot be ignored. Kendra's emotional openness creates vulnerability that may deepen or destabilize her journey. Billy Joe's willingness to engage romantically opens new possibilities and risks. Erin's ongoing struggle highlights the limits of adaptation. Esmeralda's transformation sets a precedent others may not be ready to follow. The episode functions as a midpoint catalyst, shifting the series from adjustment to consequence. Why this episode resonates beyond reality television. What distinguishes Love Your Neighbor from standard reality television fare is its refusal to simplify emotional experience. There are no villains crowned. There are no heroes declared. There are no lessons neatly packaged. Instead, the episode trusts the audience to sit with ambiguity. Faith is complicated. Love is disruptive. Growth is uncomfortable. Community is imperfect. By allowing these truths to coexist, Suddenly Amish elevates its narrative beyond cultural curiosity into something more reflective and enduring. Closing reflection. Transformation without certainty concludes, nothing feels settled, and that is its greatest strength. Participants are not rewarded immediately for surrender. Fear is not instantly erased. Faith is not affirmed without question. Instead, the episode leaves viewers with an understanding that transformation is not a moment, but a process, one that unfolds unevenly and often without assurance. Love Your Neighbor does not ask whether the participants can live like the Amish. It asks whether they can live honestly with themselves and with each other.